We're not in a global financial panic right now. We may be heading for one. We talked about this separately. We're not in one right now. We are in a recession. It looks the U.S. is definitely in a recession right now. We had 2 consecutive quarters of decline in GDP, first quarter, second quarter. Well, that's a recession. It may be prolonged. It may get worse. Europe is in a recession based on the latest data. Japan is in a recession. China looks like they're in a recession. They reported their most recent growth figures of 0.4% for the second quarter, not 4%, but 0.4% versus compound growth of over 10% for about 30 years. And they lie. So if they're admitting 0.4, I have to believe that's negative. So we're really looking at a global recession. Now, a recession or even a depression, which it may turn into, is not the same as a financial panic. You can have panics without recessions. We saw that in 1998, 1987. You can have recessions without panics. We saw that in 1990 and 2020. Sometimes they do go together. 2008 was an example of both, a severe recession and a severe financial panic. But I would keep those separate because if we're not in a global financial panic, then we don't necessarily have dollar buying because of get me out of everything else. The dollar generally does rally in a financial panic. That's correct. And it does so because people want the best assets they can find. They're like, the best description I've ever heard of a financial panic is everybody wants his money back. Doesn't matter what you're in, get me out, sell it, whatever. I want dollars. Well, when you get the dollars, you got to go buy something. So you can leave it in the bank, but banks are risky. The problem in 2008 is the banks were failing, and that didn't quite happen in 2020, but it absolutely happened in 2008. So they buy treasury bills. They buy treasury notes. They're the safest assets. They may not want them for long, but you can buy a 2-year treasury note or a 6-month treasury bill. You're not in it that long and your money's safe. So there is a demand for dollars somewhere around the world to buy that really good collateral because it looks like a safe haven relative to everything else that's falling apart. That's not exactly what's going on today, but it's related. But we are in a recession. Now, the recession should damp down the inflation. It hasn't yet. Inflation's high. There's no question about it. We see it in the data. You see it at the gas pump. You see it at the store. But that may trend a lot lower very quickly, but not for good reasons. In other words, you say, well, what's the Fed doing about inflation? Well, they really can't do anything about it. The inflation is coming from the supply side. Inflation can come from probably a lot of places, but 2 places in particular. The supply side and the demand side. Supply side inflation is when there are shortages, there are bottlenecks, there is supply chain dysfunction, people run out of stuff, there's not enough fertilizer, not enough water, not enough truck drivers, ports are clogged, you can't get the input A to make item B, so you got to shut down assembly line because you can't get, titanium from Russia to build Boeing aircraft. But supply chains are breaking down in many different respects.